this would be the last. Oh, hi there, ladies and gentlemen. 'Tis I, Michael A. Grimm, aka the Multi-Voice. I have many voices, but one opinion. And this will be the last of Doctor Who-Athon. And I'm not going to be talking about Christopher Eccleston or David Tennant or Matt Smith or Peter Capaldi or Jodie Whittaker or back to David Tennant or even the latest one, which pretty much his name escapes me because I just cannot pronounce his name. Now, I hope some of you have enjoyed the 60th anniversary that they made, because the 60th anniversary was supposed to be sort of the way of celebrating the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who, while at the same time that Jodie Whittaker regenerated David Tennant, and I just really didn't get the bi regeneration where somehow he splits himself into two, so now there's David Tennant and that new Doctor. And the only thing he says is, "Do you mind telling me what the hell's going on?" But enough with the 60th anniversary. I decided to talk about the Paul McGann era when they started the TV movie in 1992. But I'm also going to be talking about the other adventures that Paul McGann did as his Doctor. So now let's start with the movie in 1996. First, it started off that that Sylvester McCoy himself become the Doctor, and he landed his TARDIS in the middle of a dark alley where he did save a Chinese guy called Zheng Li, played by Yoji So. All of a sudden, Sylvester McCoy gets shot and gets treated by this doctor who goes by the name by Dr. Grace Holloway, played by the lovely Daphne Ashbrook. And believe it or not, this is when the first time the Doctor kisses the girl, because I've watched the classic Doctor Who thanks to Tubi, and I noticed that the Doctor had never kissed any girl, any female companion in his adventures, which was kind of surprising until Paul McGann kissed a girl, and then David Tennant and Christopher Eccleston and Matt Smith. And, you know, a little known fact, did you know after the Sylvester McCoy, they wanted to do a cartoon series with a Canadian company? And they were debating over the look of the Doctor and the characters that he'll go along with and make that cartoon series in order to sell Doctor Who toys. And they kind of combine, I mean, they don't even know if they make the cartoon of Doctor Who look more like this or more like this. Although I do say the second look is a lot better because he kind of makes me think of Peter O'Toole. And I would imagine that he would have sounded like Peter O'Toole if Peter O'Toole was the Doctor. But sadly, there was a lot of arguments and a lot of complaints going on that they couldn't do the cartoon series, so that was scrapped. It was canceled. And then there was another one where, before they did the TV movie, they were planning on having a Doctor Who with Michael Jackson and Bill Cosby. Which I gotta say that there will be a terrible idea to have the famous pop singer and that famous comedian who has a thing for Jello pudding pops. And yes, I know what goes on with Michael Jackson and Bill Cosby, but I don't want to dive into that. And if they didn't go with Michael Jackson, they would go for David Bowie as a Doctor, which, that I gotta say, it would be pretty cool to have the legendary David Bowie playing the Doctor. I am the Doctor. I'm a Time Lord. I'm from the planet Gallifrey, the constellation of Conservus. This is ground control to Major Tom. But instead, this one is where Sylvester McCoy finally gets regenerated, and he regenerates into Paul McGann. Now, one thing I gotta say about Paul McGann's performance as a Doctor, he is like, what if Hugh Grant was the Doctor? He would be good-looking, charming, suave. Be kind of interesting. But here's something that I had to say that has got to be really, really terrible. I mean, out of all the actors who played the Master takes the body of Eric freaking Roberts. God damn it! I mean, I'm sorry for those of you who like Eric Roberts, but to my opinion, and to opinion to everybody I know, Eric Roberts is the worst actor I have ever known. I mean, he is the brother of Julia Roberts, but I guess he doesn't got her talents because she's way more talented than he is. Even though Emma Roberts, she turned out to be a really good actress herself. But Eric Roberts, in the other hand, why, Eric? Why? And he hammed up his performance as the Doctor. But anyway, now the TV movie was a good movie. There were a few flaws, like when the Doctor said that he was part human from his mother's side, which that doesn't make a lick of sense. I mean, the Doctor was born in Gallifrey, so therefore he's a full-blooded alien. He's not even mixed from a human gene. So I don't even know what the hell is he talking about. And then he finally defeated Eric Roberts, because I have no respect on calling him the Master. And that was the end of Eric Roberts the Master. And of course, he didn't take Dr. Grace Holloway with him in his adventures. That's a shame. Along with Chang Li. He got inside of his TARDIS, which I gotta say, it's way bigger than any TARDIS I ever seen in any of the Doctor Who TV series. I mean, I guess when it's a cinematic movie, they make them wider and just have a lot of room. And that was the end of the TV movie. But not for long! Sorry, I wanted to say that. Ever since Big Finish got permission to do Doctor Who adventures, they decided to continue the 8th Doctor adventure. That's what they say in the series. Oh yeah, there's also one I forgot to mention. There is a Doctor Who Paul McGann adventure called The Perfect Storm, and that's when they introduce his other companion in the Big Finish, called Charlotte Plotin, played by India Fisher. Where they decided to pick up where Paul McGann's Doctor left off, and they started his adventures with, they started from 2006, year I graduated, to 2011. And they started out with Blood of the Daleks. And that's when he meets his new companion, and the new companion is called Lucy Miller, played by Sharon Smith. Which I have to say, she's a very lovely girl, and I kind of see the chemistry between Paul McGann and Sharon. And then in 2012 and 15 there was another series called Dark Eyes, starring the Great War, where he had other companions. He meets who plays Lisa Miller. She is hot. I mean, she is downright sexy. And the chemistry was pretty awesome. And I wish they would have lasted a little longer through their series and their adventures. But until when they did the Dark Eyes, starting with the Great War, that's when he kept meeting more companions. He meets Molly O'Shelvin, played by Ruth Branley. And also this lady who goes by the name of Liz Cheka, played by Nicola Walker. And this is where we start meeting the new Master, which some people will call him the Fifth Master, played by Alex McQueen. Which I gotta say that this version of the Master, he kind of makes me think of Lex Luthor for some reason. Imagine if Lex Luthor turned out to be the Master, so not only that he wants to destroy Superman, he also wants to destroy the Doctor. That would be a hell of a crossover right there. And it was way before we start introducing this other Master, played by Sir Declan Jacoba. And of course, another companion that he meets, Dr. Sally Armstrong, played by Natalie Burt. And of course, they continued on the series. There was the Doom collection. There was the Doom from 1 to 4. Yeah, I almost forgot. They even did a Paul McGann series of Doctor Who called Doctor Who Stranded, where he lost his TARDIS and trying to go through his adventures until he finally got it back. And then the further event. Oh yeah, they did a spin-off with Lisa Miller called the Further Adventures of Lisa Miller. So she goes through her own adventures after she's done with the Doctor, huh? Hell, if I met her, I would have followed her. She's a really great actress and comedian. And then, believe it or not, they decided to let the Doctor have a historical figure become one of his companions. So therefore, they did the series where there's a series called the Mary Shelley Trilogy. And Mary Shelley becomes his companion, which Mary Shelley is played by Julia Cox. Oh yeah, and remember when I said in William Hartnell and also in the 15th Doctor that when would the Doctor ever come back to Susan? Well, believe it or not, the Doctor, who is Paul McGann, did return to Susan, but he also discovered that Susan has a son, which now the Doctor meets his great-grandson. And then all of a sudden, the 18th Doctor went for a new look. Goose. Got involved with the Time War. And then there was an episode called Night of the Doctor. And that's when it changed from there, where where Night of the Doctor is where Paul McGann got involved with the Time War all of a sudden, And that's when you see that short vid where there's this new girl he met and she sacrificed herself to let him get stuck and left him dying. So the sisterhood showed up and decided to give him a choice to drink a chalice that he will no longer be the Doctor anymore. He decided to be something else. So therefore, he decided to become the warrior, drunk the chalice, and therefore Paul McGann's Doctor regenerate into the War Doctor, played by the late great John Hurt. I am looking for the Doctor. You suddenly come to the right place. Am I having a midlife crisis? And of course, John Hurt himself, he did a couple of Big Finish audio series of Doctor Who they did the Big Finish audio series of Doctor Who until he passed away and they found an imitator to take his place. But there were some other genres of Doctor Who that they were trying to do lately, like for instance, they did one called the Doctor Who: The Scream of the Shaka, where it had, and that's what they made. They made an animated pilot of Scream of the Shaka, starring Richard E. Grant as the Ninth Doctor. But sadly, it didn't catch on. But it did have a pretty good premise that he had a companion, and also he had a cyborg who looks remarkably like the Master, but he's a good guy. And Richard E. Grant did a really good job playing the Doctor, unlike what he did on that Red Nose Day episode. Stark, handsome, tall, and mirror-lookingly gorgeous. And by the way, Big Finish decided to do another sort of Elseworld Doctor Who series, so therefore they decided to make Doctor Who Unbound. And for those of you who don't know what Doctor Who Unbound is, Doctor Who Unbound, it's like a Doctor Who What If. Like, what if the Doctor didn't leave Gallifrey and he becomes the ruler of Gallifrey? Or what if the actor is being haunted by his character persona? Or what if the Doctor becomes like the Master, where he's a warmongerer instead of a good guy? But the most popular Unbound Doctor is a grumpy old man who is played by the late, great David Warner. Yes, the one I did when I, at the end of the disturbance of the multiverse. And of course, the Doctor Who Unbound made a spin-off where they introduced the Unbound Doctor's granddaughter, which she is more of an archaeologist and explorer, called Bray Summerfield. And it's this Bray Summerfield where she met Sylvester McCoy Doctor, and that's why Sylvester McCoy Doctor and Ace got separated. Wow. That was all what Paul McGann went through, and that's exactly what happened to the War Doctor. Now, I would go for the 50th anniversary, but you should just check out the 50th anniversary review I did, because I talked all about that one. And I know some of you are saying, how come I don't have any of the Big Finish audio? Well, I don't know where to start. Some of you would probably help me where to start, but I don't know where to start. So far, I only have one. And I know I mentioned this on my Star Trek Next Generation / Doctor Who, where I have this one. Doctor Who At a Time. Because I always wanted to see Tom Baker and David Tennant together for the first time, because Tom Baker and David Tennant are the most iconic doctors of them all. And that's why I had Tom Baker and David Tennant, I did my impression of them on that audio special. But I listened to this and it was really awesome, and I just imagined how those two would met for the first time, and it was pretty awesome seeing Tom Baker, who is Tom Baker, who is the classic icon of Doctor Who, and David Tennant, who is a modern icon of Doctor Who. And I always cherish this, because this is the only Doctor Who crossover I always wanted to get, because I wanted to know how the story goes between Tom Baker and David Tennant, if they met. But this is my review for the day. Sorry it took kind of short, ladies and gentlemen. So, this is the end of the Doctor Who-Athon. And this will be the end of the 8th season of Multi-Voice Reviewer. So, stay tuned, folks, because next week will be the beginning of Season 9 of Multi-Voice Reviewer. Now, this will be the end of Doctor Who-Athon, but I want to end the Doctor Who-Athon next season, where I'm going to be talking about my Doctor and my adventures. It's going to be more like an interview. I'm going to shout out to some of the people who did the voices for my audio, and even some who written my adventures, and even some who written and edited some adventures with my Doctor. So I'm going to be giving shout outs to some of the people who made my dream come true of me playing the Doctor, and even talk about some of the episodes I've gone through, and maybe talk about my future episodes, because there's going to be a new companion who's going to tag along with my Doctor, and it's a woman, but I'm not going to give out any more information until you stay tuned. So this is Michael A. Grimm, aka the Multi-Voice Reviewer, or Multi-Voice Doctor, saying I remember it so I can jog your memory. And if you like this, please leave a comment down below, hit like and subscribe. So long, everybody.